Welcome everybody to another episode of the Cannabis Review. We've got an absolutely amazing episode for you today. On the show is a man who needs no introduction for a lot of people, the king of cannabis food. It's Jeff, the 420 chef. How are you keeping today, Jeff?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. And thank you for having me on the show.
Actually, you've been one of the people I'm looking for. We've got a number of amazing guests lined up for all of January, and yourself and Luke Anderson from Cann, the infused beverage drink, have been the two people I've been looking forward to chatting to the most now coming up. So I'm sure the audience are going to love this chat as well. We've been boring them with legal experts and with financial predictions and all sorts. So it's great to have somebody on who can actually talk to the consumer and can maybe teach them a few things about their own everyday life. So I'll let you kind of introduce yourself to the Irish audience, the European audience who mightn't know too much about you as of yet, and then we can kind of cut you into our three topics.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jeff, the 420 chef. I wrote the cookbook, the 420 Gourmet, the Elevated Art of Cannabis Cuisine. Become, I guess, one of the top-selling cannabis cookbooks on Amazon now, which is pretty amazing. And really, I've been doing this for about 10 years now. And we do everything from, celebrity dinner parties, to now we're getting ready to open up the world's first cannabis edibles restaurant in West Hollywood after COVID.
Brilliant. Okay, so again, as for everybody watching, this man is one of the at the tip of the spear of the kind of food and infused cannabis industry in a global scale. I think we'll kick off with the first topic, and it's something that we can kind of explain to the audience: the complexities of cooking with cannabis, and basically how you're removing the flavor and what the flavor that most people are tasting when they're cooking with cannabis is. Do you want to outline that a bit to the audience, please?
Yeah, I realized early on that every time anybody made edibles, there was a very weedy or herbaceous taste to it. And at the time, I was cooking for a friend of mine's mother who was ill with cancer, as well as a family member who had brain cancer. And they wanted to use cannabis to alleviate a lot of the symptoms of chemotherapy, like nausea. They wanted to also increase their appetite, and also, for pain relief and anxiety relief. When I first started doing this, I was making canna-butter and canna-oil the same way that Ernie and everybody else have been doing it at the time. You basically threw your weed into a crock pot with some butter or oil and some water. You left it overnight. You froze the mixture, took off the ice, the water, and when you were left with a canna-butter or canna-oil. But that was very, very danky. And I realized that the taste was coming from everything that was infusing into that butter or oil. So you're literally taking a plant, putting it into a crock pot with butter or oil, leaving it overnight, and it's just leaching out everything from that plant. But not everything is good. And not everything ultimately, when it leaches out that temperature, remains good, right? So I realized that danky taste really came from three different compounds in the plant that were infusing into the butter and oil. And namely, it was the terpenes, the flavonoids, and the chlorophyll. And all of those between 100 degrees Fahrenheit and 200 degrees Fahrenheit. You guys are going to have to do the Celsius conversion, but all of those burn off and pretty much disintegrate between those temperatures. So that really danky taste that everyone tastes, doesn't matter what strain you use, it doesn't matter what the flavor profile of the strain is, you're always going to have this very specific weedy taste. That weedy taste is literally burnt terpenes, chlorophyll, and flavonoids. So it's similar to you can burn a piece of rye toast, and you can burn a piece of white toast, or you could burn a piece of, pumpernickel toast. That burnt part is always going to taste the same. There's a charred taste to it. And that's literally the taste that you're tasting in your canna-butter or canna-oil if you don't remove those compounds before you start making your canna-butter or canna-oil. So I invented a process that helps people remove the majority of those compounds so they have a much better tasting canna-butter or canna-oil. And from there, you can use it in a recipe and have really great tasting edible.
Excellent. And one of the other things that I was looking at is the ratios, how to get right. I saw you have one of the great implements on your site that layers the butter as it freezes. It's a mold to a description. Is that what it is?
What do you mean? You mean the our butter mold?
Exactly, yeah. So you can get actual perfect dose with each individual serving that you're trying to do.
As a matter of fact, I have one here.
Because I think it's one of the things, anybody who's trying to make it over in Ireland, you could end up having one of the brownies who seems to have gotten every bit of cannabis or weed
Yeah, I'll
into
tell you,
it.
microdosing is a really big thing,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna open this up. My son's probably gonna kill me for opening this, but it's like we sell these things day and night. It's only one. Anyway, so ultimately, we found a butter mold that actually has, I don't know if you can see inside there, but there's these little cutouts there, right? So now we know that each one of these little sections is 1 tablespoon, right? It makes it really easy for dosing. So, the first thing you want to do is figure out how potent your canna-butter is before you even put it in here, right? So we have a calculator on our, actually, it's now an app. So if you go to the just420chef.com website, you'll see a button for THC calculator. You click on there, you'll be directed to Apple or Android, and you can actually download our calculator for free. And that calculator will help you figure out the potency of your canna-butter or canna-oil before you even put it into this mold. The thing with this mold is, 1 stick of butter is going to be 8 tablespoons, right? So you want to make sure that you know just how many milligrams per tablespoon your canna-butter is. So when you're cooking with it, you can dose it properly.
Okay, excellent. That kind of brings me into the next topic perfectly, which is something that I know you're a pioneer at. It's the layered microdosing system. Can you talk me through how any chef party or dinner party would run in terms of layered microdosing?
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you, at the way beginning when I first started out, and I learned this through myself, through self-experimentation, trying to figure out, the right dosing. Because initially, when I was making my edibles, just like everybody else, I had no clue how potent they were. I would make a chocolate chip cookie, and that cookie was probably going to be 50 milligrams or higher. And I would eat it, and I'd be out for like a day and a half, and I'd have a weed hangover the next day. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. So, I realized that you don't really need a whole lot to get the effects of the cannabis. And for the most part, anywhere between 5 and 10 milligrams is great per person for a meal. And within 2 hours, most people will feel that. So, when you're talking about cannabis infused edibles, there's a metabolism thing that happens in your body. You first have to eat the edible, you metabolize it, and then the THC and or CBD that are baked into it or cooked into it, whether it's through butter or oil, then they start going into your system. So it takes about 2 hours. So what a lot of people will do is they'll be eating something, I don't feel it, I want more, I don't feel it, I want more, I don't feel it, and all of a sudden in 2 hours, when it actually kicks in, your metabolism, actually allows it to go through your bloodstream, people get completely floored. And that's a big issue because, you really should only be having 5 to 10 milligrams, or depending on your dosing tolerance. A lot of people are, I'm going to call them decadosers, so that's 10 milligrams or above, right? So, you might want to have, 20 or 30 if you're used to cannabis, but most people who are not used to cannabis do great with 2.5, 5, or even up to 10 milligrams. So you need a way to do that. You need a way to figure out your dosing, right? So the only way to figure out your dosing is, number one, to use the calculator and figure out just how potent your canna-butter, canna-oil is. But then when you're making your edibles, you want them to be low dose so you can have more than just a bite, for example, of a cookie. So in the initial example I gave you, when I had that one cookie, 50 milligrams, that was way too much. And I love cookies. I would rather each one of my cookies is 2 milligrams. And then I can, let's say, have 10 cookies if I wanted 20 milligrams, right? So it really depends on, what the individual's tolerance is. But for the most part, what we do with a layer of microdosing is we'll start out with 1.5 to 2 milligrams per item. So over the course of, let's say, a meal or over a snack sitting or over a dessert sitting, you'll get up to whatever level you personally want to titrate yourself to. So if I'm a 10 milligram guy, I know that I can have, like 5 2 milligram cookies if I want. If I'm a 20 milligram guy, then, I can go higher. But again, it's about going low, going slow, letting it kick in, seeing how you feel, and really enjoying the feeling instead of having it hit you really hard and then you're just out.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's going to be definitely a future way for people to consume. There's going to be a number of parties. I think you're at the tip of the spear again of this kind of industry in terms of dinner parties being infused like this and with such detail. It kind of brings me on to the last topic, which is the future of cannabis in food. So one of the things I was thinking, you've got the Monica's House Cafe, that basically is the first edible specific cannabis cafe, if I'm not mistaken. Do you see a future where there's as many restaurants that are serving infused food and microdosing as there is at the moment, let's say per Mexican restaurants, per steak restaurants, per burger restaurants? Will there be an ample enough share? Do you see a huge market for the infused cocktail market, or is that another space that might lag behind the food because there's such innovation that happens in the food industry and chefs can go off independently and kind of make themselves a new menu and a new target audience, whereas the drinks industry is a little bit slower in terms like that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's interesting. The challenge with cannabis infused drinks is that they don't kick in fast enough. There are some drinks that are really starting to dial that in, and there are ways that we're now finding to make cannabis infused edible products, whether it's a drink product or an edible product, kick in much faster than those 2 hours, right? So that's called short onset. There are some drinks out there, for example, Can is one actually that I just did a recipe for, where they have a 2.5 little milligram can of THC infused soda, right? So, that does kick in a little faster because it's a liquid that's going into your body, right?
Yeah,
But a
we've
lot of
got Luke
times
Anderson actually on. Luke Anderson, one of the co-founders, is on the show in 2 days' time. So
oh,
yeah,
fantastic. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So you
perfect.
should, I mentioned, I did a recipe for them, the simplest recipe in the entire world. If you want to do a really easy infused recipe, take a can of soda and then an infused soda can, right? And just dump it into a brownie mix. No eggs, no oil, no nothing. Just mix it together with a boxed store mix. Just take a can of soda. You want it infused, take the can or another soda, right? Mix it in, pour the batter into a pan, and you've got yourself literally infused brownies. It's a little secret. It's a vegan secret actually that a lot of vegans do, where they don't want to use eggs, they don't want to use anything fattening. Maybe they want to make it a little more just like I guess as natural as you possibly can with a boxed brownie mix, and the pour a can of Coke into it, or the pour a can of another can of soda. Obviously not one with high fructose corn syrup. You want to get the ones with the cane sugar in them. But literally, you dump a can of soda into a box of brownie mix and you have brownies. And with infused, if you want to do a really quick infusion, it's not a whole lot because can is only 2.5 milligrams per can of soda. But if you mix that into a mixed drink, it's going to take a little while to kick in, but not as much as it's going to take for the older version of the way people are doing things. So people are now infusing drinks, I think, more so with the canned drinks that are coming out there. There are other brands as well. There's Daybreak, which is another one we have here in California. There's Sprig that was out, but it's since kind of disappeared for a little bit. So, if you keep your eyes on those types of beverages, they're really great mixers. And they act really well, if you wanted to, for example, serve a cannabis infused beverage, let's say in a lounge. But again, because it takes a while for them to kick in, and because you can't have alcohol in any of these establishments. So it's going to have to be a way for the quick onset to come through the drink. On the other side of it, with the edibles, the state is not allowing us to actually infuse the food the way we do at our dinner parties. So when I do a dinner party, whatever, the food is infused. However, when we're doing our restaurants or lounges, what's going to happen is you have to serve non-infused food and then give the consumer a way to infuse the food themselves at the table. So what we've done is we've pivoted. Because of COVID, everything's changed. We're really not sure what's happening with the lounges and restaurants that were about to open last April 20th, actually. But, so everything was put on hold. But because it was put on hold, we pivoted. And I actually invented something called Culinary Cannabis. And Culinary Cannabis is cannabis flower that we've been able to remove all the compounds responsible for that weedy odor and taste, but at the same time keep the trichomes and the cannabinoids intact. And then we can take that, literally decarb it, put it through a process that makes not only edible, but bioavailable with a short onset time. So we have a new product that's coming out. It's called Free Leaf. This is actually, unfortunately, I don't have the actual bottles here in front of me, but the Free Leaf Culinary Cannabis, and we also have something called Scarborough Fair, which is culinary hemp. And what that is it's cannabis flower, so it looks just like weed, right? However, because we've removed all the odor and taste from it, we are able to, without the use of any chemicals or additives, it's through a process called molecular gastronomy. So this is pure molecular gastronomy. We are now able to make that cannabis taste like any herb or spice we want. So we have no oregano. You can sprinkle it on your pizza and in 20 minutes get high from it. It'll taste just like oregano. We have cinnamon, which literally you can sprinkle on your oatmeal and in 20 minutes get high from it. So again, it's 100% cannabis that tastes just like the herb, the intended herb. So if you're going to go into a restaurant like this, and let's say you want to order, I don't know, rosemary, pan roasted rosemary potatoes, and I don't know, lemon oregano chicken, right? So what you would do then is you would order, let's say, a lemon chicken. You would sprinkle a little packet, 2.5 or 5 milligrams of our no oregano on your pizza or on your chicken, right? And if you wanted your rosemary pan roasted potatoes, then we would serve you pan roasted potatoes, and you would sprinkle our rosemary Jane cannabis on it that tastes just like rosemary. Mix it up, do it on your plate, and now you've got a perfectly infused plate of a herb lemon chicken with rosemary Jane pan roasted potatoes, and you're probably gonna have like 5 to 10 milligrams on that plate, depending on how you dose it yourself.
Wow. Well, I tell you now, the first thing I'll be doing when the planes are allowed back to travel is coming over to visit your restaurant when it's open.
You have to bring some of this back with you. It should be in the market, I'm hoping, by February, March. So we're now just getting ready to manufacture legally. It took us a while to find a legal establishment to manufacture in because they're very few and far between to find. I also live in Los Angeles, so it's harder in Los Angeles than in Northern California. But we literally just found a spot and we're getting ready to manufacture there. And then on the CBD side, I don't know, if we can send this into Ireland or not, but we could try. On our website, we now have our cannabis infused olive oil. That's actually CBD, I'm sorry. So it's a hemp infused olive oil. It's called Scarborough Fair. And then we have the culinary hemp, which is the same thing as the culinary cannabis, except it's with CBD instead of THC. So you get the benefits of the CBD and the culinary hemp. We have the same flavors, the no oregano, the rosemary Jane, all of those. You can sprinkle our no oregano, Scarborough Fair no oregano on your pizza and enjoy the benefits of CBD.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely have to look at trying to get that into Ireland and further into Europe. We're actually being invited by Tim Blake over to the Emerald Cup in March. So if all goes according to plan, we could get to eat in your restaurant and go to the Emerald Cup all within this.
I would love that. Let me tell you, and we're looking for investors all over the world. We're looking for partners who can become licensees of our product. So, in addition to our tasteless canna-oil and canna-butter and the hemp version of it, as well as our culinary hemp and culinary cannabis, we also have something called odorless pre-rolls. So when you smoke our pre-rolls, it'll taste like clove or it'll taste like mint, but when you blow out the smoke, there's zero cannabis odor. And again, that's working with the same sort of molecular gastronomy process to produce that. Again, no chemicals or additives, even the flavoring, there's no additives. It's literally a way for the cannabis to assume the properties of whatever we put in the chamber with it. Did you freeze?
Okay, amazing.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think we kind of froze for a second there.
Yeah, they've got a glitch in the matrix there, all right. Yeah, no, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I think it's been a huge amount of knowledge that we've been able to bestow upon to the audience that are watching. So I wish you all the best with everything. And as I said, we'll keep in touch, and hopefully in March when I get to go over to LA, we'll hopefully get to hook up and have some food together.
I would love that. I would love to come to Ireland. It'd be so much fun. You can see everybody, it'd be a lot of fun to have an event there.
Yeah, for sure. We'll roll out the red carpet for you here, and we'll be able to sort that in that's required. So have a great day, Jeff. I look forward to chatting to you over the next few weeks, and thanks again for coming on.
Thanks, you two. Have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.